Welcome to Liberty Voice USA, the home of unfiltered political truth, where facts speak louder than spin, and integrity stands above ideology. Here, we believe in going beyond the headlines, beyond the noise and the narratives, to reveal what's really happening in the halls of American power. Tonight, we turn to a moment that unfolded with stunning clarity in Washington, one that captured the raw tension between authority and accountability. It's the exchange between House Speaker Mike Johnson and Representative Jasmine Crockett, a confrontation that didn't just expose political arrogance, but revealed, once again, the widening divide between truth and performance in American politics. It began as so many congressional hearings do, with formality, microphones, and the illusion of order. But beneath that surface, something deeper was at play. Mike Johnson, a man who has carefully cultivated the image of calm conservatism, stepped into this moment not as a unifier, but as an aggressor, cloaked in civility. And facing him was Jasmine Crockett, a first-term Democrat from Texas, known not for theatrics, but for her unflinching clarity and her refusal to be silenced by political hierarchy. What happened next would ripple far beyond that committee room. Johnson's tone carried a quiet authority, the kind that assumes control without raising a voice. He spoke in measured language, but behind every word was a message, a warning to anyone who dares to challenge the established order. He accused, implied, and interrupted, all with the confidence of someone used to holding the gavel. But Crockett didn't flinch. She waited, composed, letting the silence weigh between them before delivering a response that turned the entire room cold. Her words weren't shouted. They didn't need to be. She met him with precision, fact by fact, line by line, cutting through his argument not with outrage, but with reason. She reminded him, and everyone watching, that power doesn't grant ownership of the truth. "Mr. Speaker," she began, her voice even, "if leadership means silencing the people's questions, then maybe what we're witnessing isn't leadership at all." There was no applause, no outburst, just a heavy pause as her words settled over the room. Johnson's composure faltered for a moment, and that was all it took. What made this exchange remarkable wasn't just Crockett's confidence, but the contrast it revealed, the growing pattern of political figures who mistake dominance for discipline. Johnson, a man who often speaks about constitutional values and respect for process, seemed unwilling to extend that same respect when confronted by a strong, articulate woman of color who dared to challenge his narrative. It wasn't just a clash of opinions. It was a mirror held up to the imbalance of power that defines much of Washington today.
The cameras caught everything: Johnson's tightening jaw, Crockett's steady gaze, the uneasy glances from colleagues who suddenly realized the optics of what was unfolding. The speaker's attempt to assert control had backfired, exposing not strength but insecurity, and Crockett's measured comeback, calm, factual, and unshaken, transformed what could have been a routine disagreement into a defining political moment. In the aftermath, social media lit up with reactions. Some praised Crockett's composure, calling it a masterclass in political restraint. Others, predictably, accused her of disrespect, a familiar refrain when women in power refuse to bow to authority. But beyond the noise of partisan commentary, one truth stood out. This wasn't about political theater. It was about accountability, the kind that Washington too often avoids. Crockett's rise in Congress has been marked by moments like this, moments when she steps into the storm and refuses to be diminished by it. Her background as a civil rights attorney taught her that the courtroom and the committee room share one essential rule: facts matter. And in that exchange with Mike Johnson, facts became her armor. She cited records, exposed inconsistencies, and questioned motives with a kind of precision that leaves no room for misinterpretation. For Johnson, who has built his image on moral clarity and conservative values, The challenge was uncomfortable. He found himself on the defensive, not against partisan attacks, but against logic itself. And when logic stands against power, power often chooses deflection. He shifted the topic, tried to pivot the narrative, but the moment was already gone. Crockett had seized it, not through force, but through the undeniable strength of reason. That's the part of politics we rarely see. Not the shouting, not the sound bites, but the quiet moments when truth asserts itself and the powerful are left speechless. Crockett's composure in the face of disrespect was more than a personal victory. It was a statement about the kind of leadership America desperately needs. Leadership grounded in courage, intellect, and accountability, not ego. The deeper story here is about what happens when truth collides with image. Johnson's attack wasn't just on Crockett, it was on the principle of challenge itself. In a democracy, questioning those in power isn't defiance, it's duty. Yet we've seen time and again how those who ask the hardest questions are branded as disruptive or disrespectful. Crockett's refusal to play that scripted role, to sit quietly while others dominate the conversation, is precisely what made her response so powerful.
In that instant, she wasn't just speaking for herself. She was speaking for every voice in this country that's been told to wait their turn, to speak respectfully, to stay in line. Her calm defiance became a reflection of a larger truth. Respect is earned, not imposed. And the real disrespect comes from those who think authority grants immunity from accountability. Even among her critics, there was an acknowledgement that Crockett's response struck a nerve. Commentators described it as controlled fire, the kind of poised reaction that cuts deeper than outrage could, because the truth, when spoken calmly, carries a gravity that theatrics can never match. And that's what makes moments like this so threatening to those in power. They can't shout it down, can't spin it away. Mike Johnson, for all his political calculation, likely didn't expect this confrontation to become a national talking point. But it did, because it touched something larger than partisanship. It exposed the quiet hypocrisy at the heart of so much political discourse, where civility is demanded only from those without power, and confrontation is tolerated only when it comes from the top. Crockett's answer flipped that script completely. She didn't attack back. She held the line, calm, factual, precise, and in doing so, she reclaimed the dignity of dissent. That's what made the room freeze. It wasn't fear. It was realization. The realization that truth, even when spoken softly, still has the power to silence authority. And perhaps that's the real story here. Not just a clash between two lawmakers, but a reminder of what accountability looks like in a system that often punishes it. Crockett's exchange with Johnson reminded America that integrity doesn't require a title, it requires courage. The kind that speaks truth to power without apology. The kind that refuses to confuse respect with submission. As the headlines fade and the spin machines continue their work, the footage of that moment remains, a small but powerful testament to why transparency matters. It reminds us that democracy isn't just about elections, it's about every exchange, every debate, every citizen willing to ask, who are you really serving? And that question, simple, direct, and impossible to ignore, is what keeps democracy alive. Because in the end, truth doesn't need permission to be heard. It only needs someone brave enough to speak it.
Mike Johnson's attempt to assert control revealed something he likely didn't intend. That leadership built on image collapses the moment it's confronted by authenticity. And Jasmine Crockett, standing firm in that chamber, showed that authenticity still has a place in American politics.
She didn't just win an argument. She reminded us what it means to lead, with clarity, with composure, and with conviction. As we close tonight's report, we return to the heart of why this channel exists, to cut through the noise, to hold power accountable, and to remind our viewers that democracy depends on truth tellers, not power brokers. Stay tuned, stay aware, and stay truthful. This is Liberty Voice USA, where facts speak louder than politics.